isa kang watawan, ko'y tagumpay na naglilingit. Nang tuwing at araw na kailan pa may magdidilim.
Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, we acknowledge your holy presence today. We thank you, for you are our infinite source of peace, love, wisdom, and understanding. Please enlighten our minds, strengthen our spirit, and free our hearts from discord, strife, and contention, so that we can become effective channels of truth, justice, and peace. Forgive us for our failures, and transform us into a people who will always remain faithful to you. In spite of the various challenges that we are facing in our society today, we remain steadfast in holding on to your words, because we believe that you know what is best for us. As we do our activities, we always pray for your guidance and direction, because we are nothing without you. We need you, Almighty God, not only in moments of difficulty and danger, but in every second of our lives. God, we pray for our leaders, that you grant them with your wisdom. Help them to lead and govern with integrity, and always give them the strength to do what is right for the benefit of everyone. As members of the University of Southeastern Philippines, we pray that you guide us in the work that we do, that we may do it not for self alone, but for the common good. Teach us always to perform our activities with faith and diligence, so that we will always be a blessing and a source of inspiration to others. Please give us the strength to do more, the patience to bear our struggles, and the courage to fulfill our responsibilities. Help us to earnestly abide by the core values of the university. We entrust to you, Lord, that the university will be able to propound to the Philippines and the ASEAN the mark of the USeP in education. All of these things we ask and pray in your mighty name. Amen.
Okay, please take your seat. Again, I would like to welcome everyone to the Graduate School Research Forum on Climate Resilient Agriculture 2.0. Of course, this is under the banner of Act for AMIA. No? This is one of the university's project, and the director or the program head of the Doctor of Philosophy, together with the faculty members of the 4 subjects, we have development theories, public policy analysis, methods of public analysis and evaluation, and Philippine philosophy of development administration under Doc Sable. Agreed, no? The faculty members, of course, with the guidance of our director or the doctor of our program, philosophy program, DocRec, we have decided that we will only have one requirement for the 4 subjects, no? Considering that all of you will undergo research. No, basically, it's because of our vision. Ano gani yung vision natin? To become a premier research university. So, di kita, as a graduate school student, dili gid mo makado away with research, no, projects. So basically, as part of your requirement, every faculty member would require you a research project. So that is why, para na lang ma-harmonize tanan, we give isa na lang yun ka kung ano, murag topic nga valuable pod or magamit pod at the same time ang results sa inyong research assignment. Dili lang siya compliance, no? Dili lang siya for the sake of passing the requirement, but basically all of your outputs will be used, no, will be utilized by the Act for AMIA project. And as a start, of course, the rationale of the activity will be given to us later, but let me give you the different, there will be two groups. We have the policy studies and the research studies. Later on, meron tayong breakout session. So for the policy studies, this will be handled by our moderators. We have Dr. Romel Recla and Dr. Rick Igia. For research studies, myself and Dr. Sable. And under these policy studies, these are the following titles: Climate Change, Resilient Agriculture and Biosystem in the Education Sector, a Policy Review. Another is Policy Framework for Developing Climate Resilient Farm-to-Market Roads, Policy Analysis on Loans and Grants for Farmers. Another is Building Climate Resilient Infrastructure in the Philippines, Farmers' Climate Resiliency, its Burrows and Trenches. Rice Tarification, a Blessing or Affliction. Agricultural Resiliency, Impact Analysis on the Implementation of the Watershed Protection, Conservation, and Management. Pesticides and Productivity. Okay, these are for policy studies. And for research studies, we have Consumer Acceptability Index of GM food products or genetically modified food products. Accessibility of financial institutions among farmers in KTL Davao Oriental. Modeling the monthly NFA rice distribution in the Philippines. Cacao farmers' technology adoption amidst climate change. Agricultural Technology Acceptance Model, Principles and Practices of Water Security in Climate Resiliency of Agriculture Context, Collective Action and Cooperation and Attitudes Towards Organic Farming as Predictors on Employing Good Agricultural Practices Among Rice Farmers in Compostela, Water Sustainability in Farming, Competency Dimension of Farmers in Barangay Kalubihan, Banay-Banay, Davao Oriental, and lastly, Climate Change Mitigation Potential of Soil Analysis and its corresponding influences to climate resilient agriculture. So those are under research studies. And of course, to give us the rationale of the activity this morning and to give us an opening remarks, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you no other than our program head of the Doctor of Philosophy program, Dr. Rick E. Igia.
To my colleagues in the graduate school, in particular the faculty of the Doctor of Philosophy program, Dr. Sable, Dr. Rikla, Dr. Nugas, and the faculty members, of course, of the masteral programs. Maayong buntag sa atong tanan. So for today is the culmination of our research or intellectual journey for this semester, but it would not be the end. This will be the way of life for doctorate students. When you work especially when you work in the academy, that research became a way of life, or it is a way of life. It's the lifeblood in our day-to-day fulfillment in the practice of our profession. Now, I would like to share a little bit about why I am doing this, or we are doing this kind of activity on graduate school, or in particular for the doctorate program, promoting research and policy studies. My understanding of academic leadership, uh, my understanding of academic leadership would be into three things. Academic leadership, first, it means building a community of scholars. Second, the translation of the vision of the university into results. And third is about learning empowerment. Let me share with you about squarely. Let me unpack these three things why we have to do this. The first one on building a community of scholars. Building a community of scholars, I'd like to discuss on two aspects here. First, to build a community of scholars, there is a need to promote academic freedom of the faculty and students. It depends. No one says on how we define academic freedom, but academic freedom for me, it's about decolonizing our way of understanding reality. The need for us to decolonize our model of education, the need for us to transcend from a conventional model of pedagogy, of teaching and learning into something that will challenge the conventional or the old school of thought of understanding the reality. That's academic freedom. Second, the need for us to promote research integrity. Research integrity. Why we need to have that research integrity? Because to cultivate the culture of research, it requires creating an enabling environment for the faculty and the graduate students to interact, to exchange ideas, to come up with a synergistic imagination on how ideas can be translated into results. The reason why we have difficulty of transcending ourselves, the university, from the conventional model of education to something that is a university that is innovative is the lack of imagination. Imagination spurs creativity and innovation. The lack of imagination of the faculty, professors, and students hinders innovation and creativity, and therefore we deprive graduate students to acquire the necessary competencies as a graduate scholar. The second one is about set of direction. We need to have a common set of direction. And I think the university is very clear in our common set of direction, and that is our vision, becoming the premier research university. Research university, we mean here not only publications, not only doing studies, but the need for us to translate our idea into results. The challenge for our faculty, for the college, for the graduate school, and the graduate students to go beyond with having a completion of the requirements, but trying to translate this idea of the research into an impact to our respective offices, to our respective organizations. We don't need actually to look for another avenue for us to translate our idea into results. Our respective offices, our respective organization would be a good laboratory for us to exercise the freedom to translate our idea into impact. The third one is about empowerment. Empowerment means the need to capacitate our faculty and our graduate students. Capacity building of our faculty requires, of course, enabling environment. The challenge now on the part of the university to incentivize our initiatives of research, that faculty would be motivated to conduct research, to assist in working with the vision of the university. Now the third one suggests that empowerment is not only limited to our faculty and non-teaching staff, but more importantly is empowering our graduate students. There is no such thing as a research university without the graduate students. What will make USeP as a research university would be coming from the graduate students. You are the active and strong partner of the university as we envision to become a premier university. Ang atong mga graduate students. And by doing this activity, we are trying to cultivate the culture of, the habits of the culture of a research university, having this kind of activity. So 3 things here that I am emphasizing: the importance of building a community of scholars. Second, working to a common set of direction, and that is the vision of becoming a research university. And the third one is empowerment. If possible, we have to end the program up to 12 o'clock so that we can have actually the free-willing discussion this afternoon. Is that okay with you? Huwag na nating tagalan hanggang 5 o'clock this afternoon. If it is possible that we can finish the presentation up to 12 o'clock, we'll have our lunch. And after that, we can actually have your discussion with your respective professors if you have clarifications or questions and so forth and so on. Am I making myself clear? And with that, good luck with your presentation and have a good day.
Thank you, Duki, for that valuable input on academic leadership. Ano gani yung tatlo? One is building community of scholars. Second is the translation of our university's vision into output and outcome. And the third one is the empowerment of faculty and of course, graduate students, no? Especially for graduate students. Kasi kayo yung partner namin in, of course, translating this vision, research university, into outputs and outcomes. So basically, for the breakout session, yung policy studies, doon kayo sa AMIA na room. And for the research studies, dito sa lobby. So you will be given 7 to 10 minutes for your presentation. And at the same time, after the presentation, of course, ano ni siya, healthy discussion. Meaning to say, it's not only the panel will be giving their comments and suggestions or recommendation, but it's actually open for all. Meaning to say, you can also interact with the presenters. If you have some suggestions or queries, clarifications, then you may ask. Okay, so may I request everyone to please come closer and then be ready for the different presentation. Kinsa may una, wala pa mo yung naka-assign? May I request Dr. Sable to please come in front?
The monthly NFA rice distribution in the Philippines, a univariate time series approach, and the proponents of this research are me, Rafi S. Centeno, and Luz Rodora M. Sabado. So for the background of the study, the classical methods in time series forecasting were utilized. And the most common time series approach or time series model that can be used is the ARIMA model because of its robustness in forecasting time series data. Therefore, wherein non-stationary data can be addressed using the integrated process that is within the ARIMA process. And this is according to Mayor Kenny Quinn in 1998. Now, for our problem statement, we have only two actually, but the main objective of this research is to model the monthly distribution of NFA rice in the Philippines using ARIMA. Specifically, it aims to answer the following questions. What is the order of the ARIMA for the monthly distribution of NFA rice in the Philippines? And is ARIMA appropriate to model the monthly distribution of NFA rice in the Philippines? Basically, the scope and limitation of our study is the dataset which was extracted from the NSA report from 2015 to 2019. And we are only limited to ARIMA to SARIMA process, or SARIMA, which is that is an ARIMA process wherein seasonality is accounted by the model. Now, in our methodology, basically we used longitudinal research design, wherein a data is recorded from a constant time period, and we have utilized the Box-Jenkins methodology, wherein it is divided into three parts: the model identification part, the model estimation, and diagnostic checking. For the model identification part, we will be identifying the orders of the ARIMA process using ACF and PACF plots. ACF is the autocorrelation function, whereas PACF is the partial autocorrelation function. And using KPSS test, we will test if the data exhibits non-stationary behavior. And for the entire description of the time series plot, we use the line plot. Model estimation, in this process, we will be estimating the parameters of each orders of the ARIMA process. And the diagnostic checking, we will be assessing the fitness of the model that is being generated by the ARIMA process. So for our results and discussion, we have separated it according to the Box-Jenkins methodology. So we have started this by presenting the line plot of the given data. So as you can see, we have the data shows a non-stationary. It shows a stationary behavior with some exemptions, specifically on the months of May 2016 to May 2018, wherein there is a slight decrease of trend. However, in general, the data portrays stationary behavior. As to the variance, it's constant with few exemptions, specifically on the month of May 2016 to September 2016. Now, using the KPSS or the Kwiatkowski-Phillips-Schmitz test, this test assess if the data shows a non-stationary behavior. And since the value of the KPSS trend is significant at 0.05, the value is 0.15317. So it means that the data is stationary. There is a sufficient evidence to say that the data behaves in a stationary manner. So we are now ready to estimate the orders of our ARIMA process. So we have here the ACF plot and the PACF plot. As you can see in the ACF plot, we have 3 significant lags. And for the PACF, we have 1 significant lag. So as we can see in the ACF and PACF plot, it suggests an ARIMA process of 003, 103, and also ARIMA 100 process. Because for the first ARIMA process 003, we have 3 significant lags for ACF, whereas the partial autocorrelation function behaves as a sinusoidal pattern. For the ARIMA 100, we have a 1 significant lag in the PACF, whereas the ACF behaves an exponential decay. And 103 is also considered because the first lag is significant, and the ACF, the lag 3 is also significant. So here are the ARIMA process that we have considered. And using Aic information criteria, we have to identify the best ARIMA process that should be used to model the NFA distribution, monthly NFA distribution. So as we can see, the ARIMA 003 has the lowest AIC, which means that ARIMA 003 is the best model compared to the other models considered. So using ARIMA 003, we have estimated the parameters. So as we can see, the three moving averages. By the way, ARIMA 003 means we have an autoregressive value of 0, integrated value of 0, and moving average value of 3. So since we considered ARIMA 003, we have three moving average parameters. So in which all of them are significant, highly significant at 0.01 with an Aic score or Aic Information Criterion value of 1256.11 and log likelihood of negative 62305. Now for the diagnostic checking, we have produced several plots, one of which is the residuals versus time. So it seems that time and residuals are not correlated, therefore all of the patterns in the time series data is accounted by the model. Next, we have the residuals versus fitted. So there is no funneling pattern, which means that the variance is constant across time. For the normal QQ plot, so it suggests that most of the lines are within the red line, therefore the residuals are normally distributed, perhaps, using visual interpretation. And for the ACF and PACF plot, so it seems that no lags are significant, therefore all the patterns are accounted by the model. Now, using formal testing such as Leung box test and KS statistic, it shows that for Leung box, there is no pattern, whereas the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test suggests that the residuals are normally distributed, suggesting that the residuals behave similar to a Gaussian white noise. So this suggests that the model is a good fit to our time series data. So for our conclusion, the orders of the ARIMA models that models the monthly distribution of NFA rice in the Philippines is AR0 and MA3 with no differencing applied. So we have I equal to 0. The values of each moving average parameters are 0.617, 0.860, and 0.652 respectively, which are all highly significant with p-values less than 0.001. The AIC criterion of the model is 1256.11. The model passed all the assumptions and generated a Gaussian white noise based on the residual versus time plot, residuals versus fitted plot, normal QQ plot, ACF plot, PACF plot, Leung box test, and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. Hence, the selected ARIMA model is appropriate to model the monthly distribution of NFA rice in the Philippines. So for the recommendation, local governments, units, farmers may use the proposed model to forecast the monthly distribution of the NFA rice, which may help them formulate appropriate plan strategies that may benefit them or their constituents. Also, future researchers may compare the forecasted value and the actual value to measure the actual performance of the model and consider other univariate and or multivariate modeling technique such as exponential smoothing, multiple regression, neural networks, and multi-layer perceptrons. That's it for our presentation. Thank you very much and good morning.
Ano yung ako na lang kasi I'll be grading your paper. So, ano ba yung implication ng meron kayong mga indices, anong tawag doon?
Should I present you the
Yung findings mo. Ano ba yung implications doon?
Well, one of the findings that I presented on our research paper is that autoregressive integrated moving average can be used to forecast the monthly distribution of NFA rice. And the parameters, I mean, the order of the ARIMA model that is being presented is ARIMA 003 based on the Aic Information Criterion.
Yung AIC
Yes po.
is a criterion used also in structural equation model. So kapag mag-model ka na, tatlong model, titignan yung AIC. Kung kasi yung AIC na dinetermine ninyo na fixed indices.
Yes po.
Sige daw.
At what point should I present the data po? Okay.
Yung findings. Yung findings. Ano yung implication doon, sir?
Since Aic Information Criterion present to us the model fit and the parsimony of the model, well, Aic Information Criterion kasi measures the parsimony of the model.
Yes.
So the lower the AIC, the better the model in terms of parsimony. And with that, based on the values presented on this table, well, these models that I have presented here are not merely random, but they are based on the ACF and PACF plot. So based on these AIC values, ARIMA 003 is more parsimonious compared to the other models that are being presented in this table.
Okay. So ano yung implication niyan in predicting, in forecasting, in rise distribution?
So basically, the implication of that is to forecast the monthly distribution of NFA rise, we need to consider three moving averages from the data being used. Yes, moving averages, moving average. Kasi we have three-order MA for the ARIMA process. So if we will try to forecast now the monthly distribution of the NFA rise, so we have here the order 1, 2, 3 for the moving average represented by MA1, MA2, MA3 respectively. And the corresponding coefficients of the three moving averages are 0.617, 0.860, 0.652, and these are similar to the regression coefficients model, wherein we will try to plug in each of these one to the equation. Apparently, I was not able to present the equation.
Yes.
Sir, ARIMA is the integration of I, diba? But
Yes,
then
po.
you have not made an integration.
Yes, but because in the first thing, I didn't meet an integration because as we look at the line plot, there is no trend
So,
in that sense.
better if you have already. So, the aim is to have an integration.
Oh no,
So,
ma'am.
directly meaning, so you should directly go to moving averages because you don't have an aim or integration one.
Yeah, in that case, ma'am, since in the first place, kasi I don't know if there would be an AR process, there would be an MA process. Since ARIMA is a general model compared to what we're proposing, I'd rather go to the general process than to go to the specific model, which is the MA process. True enough, in the analysis, we found out that the necessary order or the necessary component that should be considered to forecast the monthly distribution is the MA. But apparently, my main objective here is to check first the general model before going into the specifics. Yeah.
But no integration.
No integration in the sense that there is no, the data behaves stationary, so integration is not necessary. But my main purpose of including ARIMA and the ARI is to consider the general process, not into the specifics.
Sila lang yun ang sinabi. Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. Ang ibig kong sabihin, forecastable ba ang NFA distribution? Is it forecastable? Ang ibig ko sabihin is a new English. Forecastability. Ako rin ang imbento, anak. Can you forecast the demand for rice in the next 12 months by just computing the averages, sir? Di ba? ARIMA kasi, halimbawa, i-average na ito na siya, hindi mo na i-atong i-distribute. Well, ang ibig sabihin, the likelihood of how exact is the probability that your forecast is true. Ito sir.
Based on empirical evidence, as I presented, well, the one thing, NFA distribution can be forecasted using the model that I had because I have presented the diagnostic checking and apparently the model passed the diagnostic checking. But as to the forecasted value of the monthly distribution of NFA rise, apparently I am very limited with the data given to me by the NSA. The data is up to May 2019, so I tried to make a forecasted value. Apparently, I cannot make a forecast evaluation to it because I don't have the data from June 2019 to November 2019. But if I had the data for that month, perhaps I can make a 5-month forecast for the monthly distribution of NFA rice.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So for the meantime, our assumption is NFA has no model in forecasting rice distribution. Wala pa silang model. Mata-mata lang. Mata-mata lang. And you propose, ano yung model na yun? You propose a model for NFA to forecast rice distribution. Oh. So, kasi, nganong, kuhan man na siya, kay doon na siya evidence to prove. Ang ebidensya niya, statistical evidence. There are types of evidence eh. Ang kanya statistical evidence. Kapag statistical evidence, scientific evidence. There is a proof of forecasting NFA rice. So, sa pagkakaroon, wala pa din model ang NFA. Maode ay na muto ka na sir na NFA is always no food available. Okay, salamat sir. This is highly mathematical manggod. Para doon sa practical utility ba, masata na to. Next!
May buntag so medyo nakulbaan ko. Okay, so our study is entitled, by the way, I am Ms. Melissa H. Aradia, and I will be presenting to you our research output with my groupmate, Sir Kister Keen E. Escanelia, and the title of our study is Cacao Farmers Technology Adoption Amidst Climate Change. Okay. So we all know that agriculture plays a vital role in the society since it provides income and income for our smallholder farmers, in which basically it is a source of their source of income, as I said, and it also addresses food security, production, and so on. And basically from that individual perspective, wherein our farmers will increase their income, also it will translate to the economic perspective, contributing to GNP, GDP, and so on. Actually, agriculture lags behind from that of industry and services. Less than 1/3 of the kukonti lang contribution ng agriculture doon sa ating GNP, GDP. However, if we're going to rationalize, agriculture still plays a vital role in the society and in the economy since food, primarily food, and the raw materials for the industries for manufacturing is sourced from the agriculture sector. And with that notion, it is very evident that there is a high, large population is really dependent to agriculture. And given the fact that as of the moment we are challenged by the climate change, basically we need to look into strategies how we can combat this climate change. And cacao farming is of no exemption, since as of the moment our cacao farmers are also still experiencing and challenged by this climate alteration. And with the current program of the Department of Agriculture relative to Cacao 2020, in which by 2020, 40% increase is expected, or 100,000 metric tons of the fermented beans should be produced. Muna siya ang goal ni Cacao 2020, in which that's the reason why we need to look into technology adoption for this for cacao farming. And actually the focus of our study, since if we're going to observe, many of the programs, policies, and projects are very focused on the improving production practices for management, how they can improve production, how they can improve quality of the produce. While the focus of our study is looking into the technology adoption of the smallholder farmers relative to processing. So, and with that, climate resiliency agriculture is one way to help these smallholder farmers. Okay, so for that, the goal of this research, this is our statement of the problem. So the study aimed to determine the factors that significantly influencing the farmers' adoption to agricultural technology. Specifically, this will address the following queries. What are the factors that significantly affecting farmers' adoption to technology? By the way, the technology we are referring to this is a processing technology, since, as I mentioned, majority are focused on how production is improved, whereas if little attention is given to processing for those cacao processing for the smallholder farmers. And the second is, what model can significantly determine the cacao farmers' adoption to technology? Okay, so for the conceptual framework, so we can see their socioeconomic profiles, such as gender, age, education, and income from wet and dry beans. Farm profile, the years in cacao farming, farm size, and farm distance. And awareness. Awareness, yes or no, this is actually a dichotomous variable. And provision, dichotomous as well, if it is provided or not, according to their perspective. So as I mentioned, the dependent variable for this is technology adoption relative to processing. So these are the hypotheses of the study. So first, none of the variables in the model are significantly predicting the technology adoption of cacao farmers in Davao City, and the model is not significantly predicting the technology adoption of cacao farmers in Davao City. Total of 130 research participants for us to be able to address one assumption of logistic regression to have a larger sample size. And we utilize survey questionnaire and the variables of the study, as I mentioned earlier, and we utilize binary logistic regression. Our dependent variable, as I mentioned, is dichotomous, 1 if they adopt and 0 otherwise. Okay, so here are the results. Yeah, ako na lang siya i-discuss ko, siya discussion. So first, we test the joint null hypothesis of the study. So using the omnibus test of model coefficient, if you observe, it is highly significant even at 99% confidence level. So it means that the model that we constructed is valid, is significant. It is also, to strengthen the claim, we also test Hosmer and Lemshow test to test the usefulness of the model, in which this is actually inverse hypothesis testing. So since the value of our sig is 0.112, which is higher than 0.05, it means that the model is useful. So as I mentioned, it's an inverse null hypothesis. Next is we need to test the predictive power of the model, in which if we're going to look at the Cox and Snell R squared and the Nagel-Kirky R squared, these are pseudo R squared, checking the explained variance of the model. And if we're going to look at it, referring, based on literature, mostly Nagel-Kirky R squared is being used, since it provides higher variance. As well, it is the adjusted pseudo R squared of the Cox and Snell R squared. So that's the reason why we're utilizing Nagel-Kirky, and that approximately 81% of the explained variance is explained by the model. Also, we check the accuracy of the logit model or the logistic model. So if we're going to look at it, 90.7% is its accuracy. Wherein, if we're going to check literature, threshold is just 60%, and 90.7% is above the threshold, implying that the logit model that we have is accurate. And this is the variables we included in the model. And if we're going to observe, gender is significant at 0.05 alpha, as well as age. And years of cacao farming is also is significant at 0.10 alpha. 0.10 alpha. 0.1 alpha. And also the awareness, which is highly significant, and the provision or provided, which are, pero a provision is also highly significant at 0.99% confidence level. So with this, can actually, these are the factors we found to be significant in the model. And upon looking at its gender, it implies the exponentiated beta, exponentiated beta that 5.91, comparing male from female, 5.91 implies that it is male is adoption of male farmer is higher than 5.913 than that of female. And CH, it appears that it is negatively significant, which implies that the higher the age of the cacao farmer, it actually more reluctant to adopt adopt technology. Same with years in cacao farming. Basta sila ikaw ingat na to. But based on the result, yun siya. And if we're going to look at awareness and provision, it appears that it is highly significant, which implies that our cacao farmers need awareness and provision for them to be able to adopt the technology. Sige. So this is the model we created. So it is just a copy-paste coming from the results variables kaganiha. So for the recommendation, generally, if we're going to revisit the model, we can actually look at given that the intention for the Cacao 2020 program and the goal to become the chocolate capital of the Philippines, project program policies relative to cacao processing technology adoption should consider those factors found to be significant, since it will, by the way, the binary logistic regression, we're testing the likelihood of occurrence, likelihood of farmers' adoption to the technology. So with this, we can revisit, or we can check if the gender, the age, years in cacao farming, and awareness and provision, can look at those factors for us to be able to improve technology adoption, since according to literature, many of the technology adoption provided by the government, hindi siya ganun successful. So looking at those, we can actually improve, enhance the success of those technologies provided by the government. So, we should consider the information dissemination, as I mentioned, kaganiya si awareness and provision of processing technologies to farmers, ensure that aged and seasoned farmers are able to appreciate the government's effort for the farmers. So ito yung isa sa mga challenge, since it is negatively significant. And programs should be gender sensitive, as I mentioned kaganiya. Male is more likely to adopt processing technology than that of female. So we can actually encourage women to be involved, to indulge. And in addition, further study relative to technology adoption should be conducted, since we utilize a non-parametric non-probabilistic sampling method. So basically, we can utilize the probabilistic for us to come up with a more robust a generalized result from the study. So I think that would be all, and thank you.
Only question on the presentation of Ma'am Melissa, Aratia, and Iscanilia on technology adoption. Any reaction, any comments, any question? Pamunta na po mo, ma'am, kay naabaya mo'y modeling mo ning application ni karon sa CRA. Oh. Ma'am, diri ka, ma'am. Pangutanan na ako, ma'am. Ako na lang pangutanan.
Kung kaya
Sa may kalahian sa chi-square, sa chi-square sa model, kung katong first chi-square of, second chi-square value.
At table 2, table 3, sir.
Ano yung implications niyan in relation to your model?
Okay. The table 2, sir, omnibus test is test if the model is significant. So basically, if we're going to look at it, it's significant. It's less than 0.05. However, kana si table 3, Hosmer and Lemshu test, sir, it's actually an inverse null hypothesis testing siya, checking the usefulness of the model. And it seems that the value of sig is 0.12, which is greater than 0.05. It implies that the model is useful.
Alam na yun? Okay. Ang usefulness ng model ni Ma'am Melissa, i-test siya sa ikaduhang chi-square value. Okay, baliktad niya siya ba? Kung significant gani ang table 2, walay power ang model to predict. Pero kung dili siya significant, powerful na siya. Mao nang giingon niya inverse. Di ba, Melissa? Nag-ingon ka inverse. So the chi-square value, makita mo gamay kaysa chi-square value dito sa taas, 12 o 115. Di ba? Unya naa siya degree of freedom na 8, ang degree of freedom dito sa taas 10. So the details of that will be explained by the model himself. Who is the model? The professor of computer modeling. Okay, next si
Hello, good morning. My name is Sabanan. I will be presenting our research titled Water Sustainability in Farming. I am Engineer Apolinar and my partners, Sir Glenn Mabunga and Ms. Leah Bernardino, the researchers, and our advisor, Sherlitos Istable. Sir, good morning. So to start, I would like to start this with in the farm, if you can irrigate it, don't plant it. That is according to Earthsman 2017. Know that in agriculture, it needs warm temperature, sunlight, nutrients, and of course the water. So in many regions, the required temperature and sunlight is available already, but in some, water is not available. So all plants have minimum annual water requirement just to survive, and optimum annual water requirement for maximum production. Whenever the water available to the plant is less, then the optimum amount of the production will be reduced. That is according to Field and Solly 2007. Now, our statement of the problem is we are looking at what is the respondent's assessment regarding the technical skills and knowledge of the farmers, the economic factors and socio-cultural factors. And what is this variable comes from the study of OSOLI 2007, which is conducted to 220 wetland farmers and 70 experts in agriculture, which these factors has a significant effect with 99% certainty. The purpose of our study is to determine the factors that affect the water sustainability in farming. To be specific, it will provide information to the current status of the farmer in terms of their technical skills and knowledge in farming, economic and socio-cultural level. It will provide also the information of the current water sustainability in farming. When we say water sustainability, the farmer should have an adequate water supply, regular water supply, and can irrigate on time to their farm and produce enough crops to consumers, produce quality crops, and have enough profit from their crops. Now, our conceptual framework, we will look to the relationship between these factors which affect the water sustainability in farming. Now, our materials and methods, we use quantitative and non-experimental method. We have a study questionnaire, which is we consider that our respondents are farmers, so we have a questionnaire that is converted into Bisaya. We have a sample there, questionnaire naka-Bisaya na umaga, para mas masabdan yun sa pattern. Now, we set 150 questionnaires, but we gathered successfully 66 clean 66 clean data because some other questionnaires are incomplete. So I rejected those incomplete questionnaires. I have 66 clean from 3 different barangay at Marilog district. To name Barangay Suawan, Salaysay, and Barangay Tamungan at Marilog. So before we start our data gathering, we sent a referral letter to barangay captains. It took 12 days to gather the data, and we used a multiple regression analysis. And for the question number 1, the assessment of the farmers in terms of the technical knowledge, you see that they are undecided about their cropping pattern. So they are undecided, they are not sure about if they are using an appropriate distribution of water management system. They are not sure also if their crops is using less water. They are not sure also if they integrate their lands to others just to avoid wasting of water. But what they agree, out of 3.71, out of 5, 3.71 seems low. They agree that yes, they do attend meetings, yes, they attend RSA consultation, yes, modern technology, and they attend seminars and trainings. But if you look on the numbers, it's very low, over 5. That's only 3.53, 3.52, and it's quite well. In short, that the technical knowledge of the farmers, they are not quite sure. For the second factor, about the economic, they are not sure also about are they using the modern technology. I'm not sure if they use if they have difficulties in transporting their product. But based on the numbers, quite low. For sure, we can conclude that they have difficulties. They don't use modern, and it's difficult for them to easily market their product to consumers, and it's really costly for them to transport the product to market. And what they disagree is that they don't have the mechanical and equipment for their irrigations. They don't have the support from the both national and local government, and they don't loan to the government just to buy the irrigation system. They don't have enough personnel to work on their farm, and they don't ask to financial facilities to irrigate the farm. Kumbaga, hindi sila gusto mangutang kasi siguro dako sila o interest na. And they don't have, of course, the capital for the irrigation system. For the socio-cultural, they are quite undecided about the quality of their products, the policy, the traditions to irrigate, and not quite sure about the adoption of new technology. They all are undecided about attending for consultations. But on this, their culture is they're always thinking how to increase their profit, which it has 3.51 with agree. Overall, they're undecided about their culture as farmers. For water sustainability, this is our independent variable. Now, if you look into the numbers, it's quite low. Undecided means we can conclude from those numbers that they don't have the water supply, they don't have the adequate water supply in their farm, they don't have enough crops or enough product to consumers, and they cannot irrigate their farm on time. They don't have enough profit from their farm, and they don't have a regular supply for their farm. But they, according to them, as 3.5 agree, they produce a quality product. Now, to test the significant relationship, the third question here, to test the significant relationship between the factors that which affect the water sustainability in farming at Marilog district at 3 different barangays, it turns out it's significant, which means that these factors can predict the water management system at 99% certainty. And for the model summary, that this model accounts almost 40% of the model. And our coefficient, among the three factors, the only significant is the economic factors. It means we have to, it's not enough that we give them training, it's not enough that we give training and knowledge, but we should also provide them financially, meaning we should give them capital, loan that is least and not burden for them, so that they will be water sustainable. Now, this one are the actual comment of the respondents. Kumbaga nakabisaya na ni siya. Actual comment, dapat adunay eksaktong suporta sa patubig ug mutabang ang ahensya sa gobyerno aron adunay igong suporta. So dapat mutabangan mi og patubig. So all those comments, ang reklamo gyud nila ang patubig. Wala gyud sila klarong patubig dito. Even the barangay captains we interviewed, problema gyud nila ang patubig. Ug nagulat sila og igong suporta sa gobyerno. Na ako din kinahanglan aduna kami patubig aron ma-maintain namo ang among pagbasa. So ang among kasulti lisod kay walay supply sa tubig ug lisod pagpamuma sa among produkto kay walay tarong nga pagsada. Isa pud na. Hinaot nga mahatagan mi og eksaktong supply sa tubig para sa among komunidad. So based on those comments, problema gid nila ang patubig. Okay? Gusto na mo nga matagaan bahit sa pag mahinaot mi nga magtangan og patubig ang among sitio so awan. Okay, so mo niya mga daghang salamat sa inyong paghatag sa pagpakabana sa mag-uuma. So daghang salamat sa inyong pagpakabana. So conclusion, the results indicated that from the viewpoint of our farmers, 66 farmers, 66 clean data, supposedly other questionnaires because lack of entry information. So we have 66 clean respondents. So from them, at Marilug District, all the technical knowledge, economic and social-cultural had significant effect on the water sustainability in their farm with 99% certainty. Moreover, the result of this research shows that among these factors, the economic factors have the most significant to attain water sustainability in their farm. So it's not enough that we give them seminars, trainings, we should give them also capital for their irrigation system. Capital, equipment, and mechanical equipment. So our model will be that one to predict the water sustainability in their farm. That's y-hats called 0.508 plus 0.460 multiplied to its economic factor. Now, our recommendations is that the government are advised to provide appropriate trainings and seminars for the farmers and involve them in policy consultations. The government are advised also to give the farmers loan that is least and not burden for the farmer and full support from the government. And the government are advised also to provide them capital, mechanical equipment, and for irrigation system which would significantly produce enough supply for crops and can irrigate their farm on time while producing quality product. And for our references, Burns Field, Divido, and so on. And these are the barangay captains and the researchers. I guess, thank you.
Any question on the findings of Engineer Mabunga and Cafe? There is a mayo din siguro matindro ka kay
Ito yung recommendation.
balik kami sa table, sir. I am very specific on the interpretation side. Katong table sa result sa regression. Alright, kung ano ba, kung sa may purpose ano ba, sir? What does ANOVA table tell you in
This
regards to
ANOVA table, it represents tells us if there's a significant relationship of this variable to the dependent variable. So if you see the significance level, it has less than 0.001. So our significance is 0.000. That's the sigma. It's less than the alpha level. So it tells us that this model is significant, that these variables can predict the water sustainability. And this model accounts almost 40.399 or almost 40% of the variance. And this one, among the three factors, the greatest factor is the economic factor. So it's not enough that we just give them technical knowledge, training seminars, but we should also give them capital in terms of economic.
Okay, sir. What is the difference between the ANOVA table in testing the difference and the ANOVA table in regression analysis? Anong kaibahan nila? Ano yung function ng ANOVA table sa multiple regression?
In testing the difference, that you only test the difference of two variables, but for the regression analysis is actually you are predicting the output of the
So
model.
yung ANOVA table, remember this, the ANOVA table in regression analysis tests the predictive power of model 1. It will test the predictive power of your model 1. Ipakita ra ko itong model 1. Oh! Do ka itong model 1. Makita nimo ang model 1. Ang iyang variance 37%. Ang ibig sabihin diyan, it was confirmed by ANOVA table that that model has the power to predict variations of the dependent variable given the independent variables. Mo na function sa ANOVA table. Okay. So kana ang kuan diha. So ang ibig sabihin, it will reinforce the scientific value of your findings. Kung tanaw nimo ang coefficient, sorry. Katong coefficient. Ang imong independent variables, dili siya significant. Ang imong economic factors is significant. So, makikita mo yung economic factors can predict the value of your sustainability. Given those values, yung beta coefficient niya 0.460. Okay? So, ang water sustainability is influenced by is a function of economic factors of the farmers. It is a function of the economic factors.
Sir, na question.
Na-question yata si sir.
Anong 0.46, you run all technology, economic, social, and then you have that kind of function? Or isa na lang din ang economic factor ng 0.460?
If you look at the data, ma'am, for the technical knowledge, only 0.18 which is greater than
My
0.0.
question is, hindi din siya tanggalon ang, kaya siya, that's one model.
Yes, ma'am. That's one model.
That's one model, includes technical, economic, and social. And then you have at the bottom, economic factor na lang ang iyang significant.
Yes, ma'am, because the two are not
Pero ang
significant.
nga ang model, naido ka nga tanggalon din mo siya, is it dapat i-run na kung mo ang economic na lang ang factors?
Yes, that's a valid question. Valid question.
Kaya ka na mo siya. Kaya na siya nga model, tanggalon mo ang hub. Pero dili ni mo siya ikuan na, inanalagay ni mo siya nga model. Ang imong pahaton is, tanggalon mo ang i-run na lang mo, economic factor na lang. So the parameters will change the value. Dili na siya mao nga value.
Okay, kana siya
Saka na siya
So there are diagnostics. there are procedures of diagnosing.
Thank you for...
Nag-undergo ka na, sir?
Hindi siya diretso tanggalon, sir. Kaya one model man na siya. That's one model ang tulo. So, pag kuha ka isa, murang isa na lang ka model. Generating another kind of, different kind of parameters. Kasi nga, constant po ang iyang kanang parameter na coefficient.
Actually, we did not come up on that thing because the study was made for overnight. Only we got the data of 80. So, kumbaga, hinalikan lang sa basa.
Enhancement, sir.
Enhancement.
Isa na lang economic model, hindi na siya yung model, sir.
Okay,
Yes, okay.
that's a valid. Okay, namay papunta na. Wala na. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Pwede siya gawin mo sa ina. That's what it was stepwise regression. Stepwise regression.
Yes.
Isa-isa.
There are other avenues from which you could validate or check your estimation. Like, kung sa gamit mo sa naadagan niya, sir. Stepwise forward.
Stepwise.
In fact, tulog-tulog na. Kailan mo gamitin yung stepwise? Kailan mo gagamitin yung forward? So there are assumptions also that you have to once sir, expect to kahit ang assumptions, sir.
Pwede stepwise.
Oh. Alright, so sir, thank you for that. So that's a good observation. Next.
Once again, good morning everybody, my fellow classmates as scholars here at the University of Southeastern Philippines.
Bayaran na sa gobyerno.
Bukat maganda sir. Okay. Alright, so once again, good morning. Our group, we have this research entitled Determinants of Awareness of the Effects of Climate Change on Banana Plantation among banana farmers in Carmen del Norte. So why is it that we conducted this research? So I will go through with this one quick. The problem and related literature. Banana is an important tropical fruit globally because of its use and value as food, an economic product and cultural reasons. It is considered the most popular fruit in the world, and over 1 trillion individual fruit are consumed every day. That's Daniel's, Engelberger, and Lawrence 2011. They are important as cash crops, in some cases providing the sole source of income to rural populations. Friesen and Sharrock 1999, Demchi et al. 2005. However, predicted changes in climate using global climate models indicate that recent and predicted increases in temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns will place pressure on banana cropping systems. IPCC 2007, Hawkins et al. 2008, and also Lee et al. 2015 noted that people in most developing countries had never heard of climate change, and those heard have perceived it as a natural phenomenon. The Philippines is considered highly vulnerable to extreme events, most of which are climate-related. Climate change is predicted to exacerbate poverty and hinder development efforts. Narisma et al. 2011 and Ramirez et al. 2011 also predicted that banana systems will face pressure from climate change. Thus, the adaptation is needed to reduce the negative impacts and to capitalize on the positive effects of climate change. For stakeholders to adapt to climate change, they must have knowledge of what is expected. Furthermore, adoption of any agricultural technology or practice requires prior awareness, but different factors and conditions may affect adoption and awareness. Bernier et al. 2015 reported that awareness of certain practices depends on a set of individual socioeconomic characteristics such as age, sex, access to different channels of information, as well as household level characteristics, example, land size, assets, and intra-household norms. It is concluded that the above discussion that awareness is the most important factor for resiliency with the impacts of climate change in agriculture, especially in banana industry. Awareness of general public of climate change has been studied in the previous literature, but the study of farmers' awareness of the effects of climate change is specifically on banana production is currently required, particularly in developing countries such as the Philippines. This study is designed to fill this gap through quantitative analysis. So this is the conceptual framework of our study. So the independent variables, these are the determinants of banana farmers. Yes, we have the gender, age, family size, education, farm size, family income, trainings, or seminars, and farmers' organization membership. So these independent variables are actually based on literature. While a dependent variable, that is the outcome variable or dependent variable is the awareness of the effects of climate change on banana plantation. The methodology, the study was carried out in Carmen Davao del Norte due to the existence of several banana plantations in the area. A total of 103 banana farmers were proposally selected to participate in the cross-sectional survey. Data collected from survey were coded and analyzed using SPSS version 21. Descriptive statistics such as frequencies and percentages were calculated. Binary logistic regression model was used for analyzing the effect of several variables on awareness of the effects of climate change on banana plantations. Logic regression model was chosen by the researchers because there is a widespread literature showing that farmer awareness can be analyzed using this model. So these are the variables of the model with their descriptions. So the independent variable, which is the awareness of the climate change on the plantation, 1 if aware, 0 if unaware. Gender, 1 if male, 0 if female. Family size, age, repeat years. Family size, number of household members. Education, years of schooling, farm size, it's in hectare. Trainings and seminars, number of semesters attended related to effects of climate change, and farmers' organization membership, 1 if yes, 0 if no. So this is the logic model. Okay, that's the equation. Results and discussion. So this is the frequency distribution of the categorical independent variables. We have the gender, membership, and awareness. Based on the table, most of the respondents are male. Okay, most of the farmers are male. Memberships in organizations, most are not members of farmers' organization. And if they are being asked if they are aware about the effects of climate change, most said that they are not aware of it. Okay. Descriptive statistics of the continuous independent variable, which is the age, family size, education, farm size, and seminars. So as you can see here that most of the farmers, the banana farming industry are actually, we have aging na sila ang population. Kasi ang pinakataas yata 69. At 69 nag-farm pa. Pinakabata is 18. Family size, ang maximum na is 13. Meron isang farmer, nag-iisa lang siya sa bahay. Pero average is 5.0 or 6. Education, meron talaga isang farmer na hindi talaga nakapag-aral. And ang ibang farmer, nakapag-college naman. Farm size, most of them actually have like 0.96 hectare. Wala pang hectare. Pero ang average is 1.12. Seminars, not Most of them don't have seminars about the effects of climate change on their farms. Determinants of awareness of the effects of climate change on banana plantation among banana farmers. Before performing the regression, diagnostic tests were carried out to check the multicollinearity problem in the independent variables. None of the independent variables was found to have a significant correlation, suggesting no problem of multicollinearity. Other diagnostic tests were also performed to check the soundness of the model. So we have table 3, model fitting information. It shows that the statistical evidence of the omnibus test of the model coefficients, the full model has a significant prediction performance at 5% alpha level, chi-squared 20.813, degrees of freedom 7, and the p-value is less than 0.001. The model has also good fit since Hosmer and Lem show test could not reject the hypothesis of the model appropriateness. Okay? So it's more than 0.05. So it's 0.757. Pseudo R squared. So according to Cox and Snell and Nagel-Kirky, 26% to 35% of the total variation on the dependent variable can be explained by the model. These are now the determinants. We are now trying to test which of these determinants of awareness of the effects of climate change of an plantation are significant. So out of 7, we have only 2 significant predictors. These are the family size, significant at 0.044, and membership, 0.002. Okay, interpretation. Among the independent continuous variables, family size had a significant effect on the awareness of the effects of climate change. The results revealed that with 1 unit increase in family size, the probability of being aware of the effects of climate change increases by 12.66%. This is supported by the study of Aqua 2011, who also found the positive association between household size and awareness of climate change. Similarly, among the dummy variables or categorical variables, membership to farmers' organization had a significant effect on awareness of the effects of climate change. The results reveal that if a farmer is a member of a farmers' organization, then the probability of being aware of the effects of climate change increases by 20%. Mustafa et al. 2018 similarly found membership to organization to be possibly related to farmers' awareness to climate change. Now, here's the thing. If a farmer is male, then the probability of being aware of the effects of climate change is lowered by 4.9%. Similarly, with an additional year of age, education, farm size, and seminar, the probability of being aware of the effects of climate change are 10.26%, 10.52%, 7.69%, and 12.04% respectively. Moreover, with 1 unit in decrease in farm size, the probability of being aware of the effects of climate change increases by 7.69%. Okay? Conclusion and policy recommendation. Prior awareness is necessary for the adoption of any climate-resilient agriculture technology and practices. Family size and membership to farmers' organization are significant predictors of awareness of the effects of climate change. Government must prioritize climate change awareness-related programs so that the banana farmers could reap more in terms of quality and quantity of produce. Support from the local and provincial governments is imperative to build a sound knowledge of climate change among farmers by establishing cooperatives and new models of farmers' organization to provide information about climate change resiliency in banana farming. Thank you very much. Yes, pala. Hello, yun na ko how ani ha? Save the best for last. Kung ano ko ani pink na ko. Kung siya ang mga mga siya determinant mga predictor variables. Okay. Gano ba diri oy? Mali siya. Alam ko, I'm so sorry for any problem. Amen? Okay. So, una siya.
Logistic result.
Okay, kini siya sa descriptive stat niya.
Sir, but before sir,
Oh my God!
sir, clarification sir, before we proceed to the logistics sir, I would like to ask, kasi it is very, there are only few researchers presented that they tested the normality. Have you tested the normality, the assumptions before? Kasi regression analysis is very strict with respect to the
Kailangan yung
have you tested the
normality of
data,
distribution,
homogeneity of variance?
We use
the assumption of parsimony,
Kasi we cannot directly use the
normally distributed.
I didn't check that the normality, sir, because I run binary logistic regression.
Kailangan testing mo ang normality, sir. Kaya meron niyang appropriate measurement. If the distribution is normal, you use binary logistic regression. Binary logistic. If the distribution is skewed to the right, abot mo sa abnormal. Kasi skewed to the right, hindi normal. Kasi yung normal, as kanang bell shape. No? Kapag skewed to the right or skewed to the left, unsay gamiton no measurement, dili mo apply ang logit diha. Unsa may mo apply kung skewed to the left or skewed to the right. Sir, mo ni pakuntaran ni sir. Duha ka po siya. Na logit na may probit. Kung skewed to the right or left, dili normal. So you use probit. Pero kung normal, bell shape, you use logit.
Okay. I test to remedy because I checked that there's wala pa man siya na parang assumption.
Kaya nga, it is very good when you present a paper, yung mga assumptions should be presented in this one. Kaya para at least ma-feel.
Kaya ang palang root siya, ang iyang katong ibasa na akong assumption lang dito is the assumption of multi-collinearity. So wala ko na-aware ako kasi I thought kasi mag-run ka ng normality test if you're doing simple or multiple regression.
Okay, sir. Okay, kasi binigyan ko ni sir ang step. So, una yung steps na binigay ko, sir.
Okay, sir.
Alright.
So wait lang, sir, balik ko. Pag normally distributed siya, sir, probit at logic.
Binary.
Pero pag skewed to the left, skewed to the right, probit siya.
There's another measurement. Pwede gamitan mo probit. Now, sa ito speed. So you check that in statistics book kung abnormal ang distribution. Kapag abnormal ang distribution, ayaw gamitin o logistic regression, pwede siya mo apply daghan. Daghan mga daghan kaayo ka o predictors. Niya isa na lang ang significant, that is balikwakot pa. You have 18 predictors or 15 predictors, niya pag-grabbing mo logit, isa lang ang significant. Ang ibig sabihin niya, that could be a sign that your distribution is not normal. The appropriate measurement is not logit, but logit. Sige sir, thank you.
Our research is entitled Climate Resilient Agriculture, Rice Farmers Practices in Poblacion, Taynan District. So, we all know that agriculture is the art and science of cultivating the soil, growing crops, and raising livestock. And here in the Philippines, we consider rice as one of the most important crops since we Filipinos consider it as our staple food. However, studies show that rice farming contributes more GHG gas or greenhouse gas emissions compared to other crops since the presence due to the presence of methane and nitrous oxide in the rice fields. And we all know that climate change is a great threat to the agriculture of the region and even the world. So to cater this or to address this concern, many government agencies give focus or emphasis or importance on introducing climate resilient agriculture practices on rice farmings. So the significance of this research is to determine if the rice farmers in Poblacion, Calinan district are practicing climate resilient rice farming. So this study is to determine the following concerns. First, if the rice farmers in Poblacion Calinan are familiar and aware about climate resilient agriculture, if the rice farmers have attended trainings or seminars related to climate resilient agriculture, and if the trainings and seminars that they have attended are helpful to their farming, and what are the agencies or offices that offer these trainings and seminars, and if the farmers are aware about the different rice varieties that are climate resilient, and if the rice farmers are producing these varieties, and lastly, if the climate resilient agriculture has significant improvement on volume, quality, and cost saving with regards to rice farming. So the significance or the purpose of this research is to determine rice farmers' awareness and appreciation about climate resilient agriculture and their concerns relative to rice production. This is also to provide the government, specifically the Department of Agriculture, with information on the appreciation and the interventions being provided to the rice farmers. So to determine the climate resilient agriculture of rice farmers in terms of first, awareness on and appreciation of the climate resilient agriculture, the effects of climate change on rice production, the climate change resilient rice varieties, the change in volume of rice production as a result of these practices, the change in quality of rice as a result of these practices, and the reduction in the cost of rice production due to climate resilient agriculture practices. So we use this conceptual framework. First, we identify the current condition of the rice farming in the Poblacion Calinan, and then we look for the practices or strategies that have been introduced by different government agencies to these farmers. And maybe from these practices and strategies, the farmers have innovations on their rice farming practices. And with all of these initiatives, we determine if the outcomes of these trainings or seminars that have been introduced to them have positive or negative outcomes. So to proceed with our presentation, I will call my partner.
Good morning, everyone. So the statistical tool that the researchers employed in this research paper are frequencies. Frequencies are used to describe the observations on the variables considered in this paper. Due to time constraint, the researchers decided to reduce the sample size from 100 to 40. Using the sample size calculator available online, the determined sample size of 40 respondents considered a confidence level of 95% and a confidence interval of plus minus 8.43. The respondents were determined using convenient sampling technique. The primary data came from the responses of the 40 rice farmers in Poblacion, Calinan. The researchers were able to get the list of 220 rice farmers in the said barangay from the District Agriculture Office of Calinan. A survey questionnaire was designed by the researchers as shown in our write-up. So After encoding the responses and generating the frequencies using the trial version of the SPSS, the findings are as follows. The respondents' profile covers the following information. The age of respondents ranges from 28 to 83 years old. More than half, or 62%, or 25 are male, while the remaining 38% or 15 are female rice farmers. Majority, or 82%, are married. The number of years of rice farming among the respondents ranges from 1 year to 54 years of experience. The size of farm being tilled by these rice farmers ranges from 0.5 hectares to 2.8 hectares. On awareness of climate change, majority, or 97%, expressed that they are aware of climate change. About 70% said that there is reduction on rice production today compared to 20 years ago due to climate change. There were about 57% said that drought is more felt now compared to 20 years ago. Slightly more than half, or 57%, are saying that there is no drought felt during this period. About 72% are saying that there is no high demand for water in rice production because Poblacion Kalinan are irrigated, or the area cultivated among rice farmers in Poblacion Kalinan is irrigated. So the respondents were also asked if they are familiar about climate resilient agriculture. Majority, or 95%, affirms that they are familiar with it. About 82% attended various CRA-related trainings and seminars. 80% of them, or 32 respondents, are recognizing the efforts of the government on providing trainings and seminars relative to climate resilient agriculture. About 80% are expressing that these CRA trainings and seminars provided by the government through the Department of Agriculture are helpful. There are about 10% expresses that they have received information dissemination from non-government agencies. These are usually trainings about insecticides and fertilizers. Also, there is about 2% of the responses who forgot the name of the company that provided them the information or the training on CRA. About 82% agreed that the CRA trainings and seminars that they attended are helpful. Majority, or 95%, confirmed that they are aware about CRA rice varieties, which include but not limited to the varieties shown on the slide. So as you see, the first 3 rice varieties are familiar, have high percentage of awareness and familiarity among the rice farmers in Poblacion Kalinan. While the last 3 rice varieties said that they are not familiar, so those are the percentages of the rice farmers who are not familiar with CRA rice varieties. So when they were asked if they are producing CRA rice varieties, majority says no. So those are the only few said that they are producing rice CRA rice varieties. So as you see, if you compare it with the awareness, marami nakakaalam, but only they are not producing it. So when the respondents were asked if there is an improvement on the volume of rice produced as a result of CRA, only 22% agreed, while 67% disagreed, and about 11% expressed that the same volume has been produced. As regards the improvement of quality on the rice produced, about 77% disagreed and only 22% agreed. When they were asked if there is a reduction in the cost of producing rice after they have learned and implemented CRA, majority of 82% disagreed. Meanwhile, we also took note of the common clamor of the rice farmers of Poblacion Kalinan, one of which is the plummeting price of rice for as low as 12 pesos per kilo, samantalang in the previous years, parang not less than 40 pesos per kilo siya. Meanwhile, the rice farmers are appreciative and grateful of the government support to them, which include the conduct of various trainings and seminars in climate resilience, agriculture, provision of palay seedlings, conduct of trainings on organic fertilizer and insecticides, among others. However, they also find the palay seedlings, insecticides, and fertilizers that are being provided by the government free of charge ineffective. According to them, some of these provisions produce low volume of production due to rice diseases such as rice tongo bacilliflora virus and rice stem borers. They emphasize that the trainings provided by the government on insecticides and pesticides are not effective, or the free rice seedlings that were also provided by the government. So for our recommendations, I turn back the floor to my partner.
So, considering the result of our survey or the result of our study, we recommended the following. First, for the policy makers, they must review the rice importation order and consider the rice produced domestically, and this will answer the clamor of rice farmers about the very low price of rice, and the cost of production is too much high compared to years ago. The second one is agriculture offices must seriously examine first the rice variety before distributing the seedlings to farmers. This includes testing the suitability of a certain variety to different soil types and weather, and also the seedlings must be of good quality. Receiving ineffective seedlings will discourage farmers or will distrust them to the government, as this may cause failure of production. So once failure, sayang yung time nila, sayang yung cost and everything. So the third one is that agricultural technician to initiate more capacitation to rice farmers in educating them about climate resilient rice farming. Lastly, agricultural technician to think more effective way on encouraging farmers about organic farming, since organic farming is considered as one of the mitigating measures towards climate change. So that would be all. Thank you very much for listening.
Good morning, everyone. I will be presenting to you our output together with Ma'am Rona Apolinario. Our research is entitled Collective Action and Cooperation and Attitudes Toward Organic Farming as Predictors on employing good agricultural practices or GAP among rice farmers in Compostela, Davao de Oro. Okay, for the background of our study, since employing good agricultural practice has been tagged to be the best practice that will address environmental, economic, and social sustainability for on-farm processes and result in safe, high-quality food and non-food agricultural practices, the national governments have introduced Rice GAP to enhance the sustainable rice production. In the Philippines, these are the highlighted problems that were encountered by the rice farmers. First, the high cost of inputs, and then followed by the low price of palay, lack of capital labor problem, lack of post-harvest facilities, pest diseases, and irrigation system. In order to address those problems, according to one of the key factors that can be part of the solution is enhancing the entrepreneurial skills of the rice farmers. As Zapata in 2012 pointed out, that entrepreneurship process has been argued as an opportunity-driven, creative, and resource-efficient that could influence income generation of small farmers that adopted entrepreneurial skills and innovation into their farming operations. Another suggested solution will be the organic agriculture. According to Kings and Ilbere in 2012, they put forward that this organic agriculture system may sustain the health of soils, ecosystem, and the people. So also they added that organic agriculture combines tradition, innovation, and science to benefit the shared environment and promote fair relationships and good quality of life for all involved. For the statement of the problem, literature has shown that there is a positive linkage between small farmers that adopted entrepreneurial skills and innovation into their farming operations and increased income, Yet, among all the entrepreneurial skills, it is not known which ones predict the employment of good agricultural practices among the rice farmers. As experts say, agriculture and climate change has a reciprocal relationship, and this academic endeavor hopes to break that cycle. This study was conducted to support the goals and objectives of the AMIA project, which is to strengthen resiliency of the agriculture sector against the terrors brought by climate change. With entrepreneurial skills and attitudes toward organic farming as predictors of GAP, rice farmers will have a focus on which aspects to concentrate on in order to solidify their favored agricultural inputs and expected outcomes. For the objectives of the study, we have measured the level of entrepreneurial skills of the rice farmers in Compostela Davao de Oro in terms of these indicators, followed by the level of the attitudes and behavioral beliefs toward organic farming of the rice farmers, and of course the level of GAP. And another objective is to test if there is a relationship between the independent variables and the DV. And of course, we are to determine what domains of the IVs could predict or has an influence to our dependent variable, which is the good agricultural practices among the rice farmers. So this is our conceptual framework, given the the variables for our IV and of course for the DV. So we have assumed that this is our working model. We have assumed that all those variables could be good predictors of GAP. For the hypothesis, of course, this was tested at 0.05 level of significance, and no relationship between the IV and DV, and of course, there is no way that to predict the DV. For the methodology, these methods were employed. For the sources of data, our scope are the farm, field, school beneficiaries of the extension program of the CVSC main campus. So we have modified and adopted questionnaires. And for the sampling technique, we have only 31 rice farmers, as complete enumeration technique was employed, and statistical treatment. And we also have employed ethical considerations. For the profile of our farmers, those details were gathered, the data were gathered according to age, sex, farm size, education, length of farm years, cultivation, water source, soil type, and soil preparation. And for the results and the level of the entrepreneurial skills and attitudes and behavioral beliefs, to highlight those indicators with the highest mean score, it is the behavioral beliefs toward organic farming, and if it will be matched to the parameter limits that we have indicated, it has a qualitative description of very high. And the lowest is the confidence and risk-taking behavior, which has a mean score of 3.8, but it still has a qualitative description of high, which means that the entrepreneurial skills and the attitudes and behavioral beliefs of the rice farmers are manifested. Even the good
we would like to present our study, Climate Change Adaptation Strategies among small-scale farmers in Arakan. I'm Riza Rhea Birinconale, the presenter, and my partner is Sir Errol M. Gumagay. The effects of climate change are growing more pronounced and increasingly threaten the well-being of society regardless of the geographical location. However, the burdens of climate change are not equally distributed. Communities that are especially vulnerable or underrepresented often suffer most, and climate change impacts can exacerbate existing social inequalities. In this context, smallholder farmers are one of the most vulnerable groups to climate change. Yet efforts to support farmer adaptation are hindered by the lack of information on how they are experiencing and responding to climate change. more information is needed on how different types of smallholder farmers vary in their perception and responses to climate change and how to tailor adaptation programs to different smallholder farmers' contexts. And this study is necessary to determine the farmers' challenges related to climate change in agriculture and their adaptation strategies applicable in their own context, as what the theory on climate, cultural theory on risk and resiliency, that the adaptation strategies vary depending on the context. Therefore, we have these research questions. First, what is the profile of the small-scale farmers in Arakan? The climate change-related risks which farmers are exposed to, and the level of the applicability of the adaptive strategies of the farmers exposed to climate change-related risks, and what are the factors which significantly influence the level of applicability of adaptive strategies of the farmers exposed to climate change risks. And we have this conceptual framework. Applicable adaptive strategies as the dependent variable, and the independent variables are the income, the tenure of land ownership, education of farmers, the type of crops, the farm size, and if the farmer is a farm-based beneficiary. The following methodology are employed in the conduct of the study. The quantitative descriptive research design, and the respondents are the 32 small-scale farmers. We use the quota sampling. It's because of the procedure that the researcher did the interview face-to-face with the farmers, because some of the farmers are not well-versed in English. And a researcher-made survey instrument was used in the conduct of the study. And the location of the study is in Arakan, which is, the proximity is near to the Davao region. The statistical analysis used are frequency, percentage mean, and the multiple linear regression was used to determine the independent variables influence on the dependent variable. So here are the results of the study. Most of the respondents, or the farmers, are 50 years and above. And in this education, 25% have not graduated elementary, and there are 31%, or 10 among them, are college graduate. And only 11 or 34% of the respondents are farm-based beneficiary, of which 50% of them have income below 10,000. And 71% of them engage in multiple cropping, or are engaging in more than one crops. And 87.5% are owner of their own land, or the land that they are tilling, and most of them have farm size of below 5 hectares. Based on the result of the study, farmers perceive drought as the most the climate change related risk which affected their farming practices. And next to it is the pest infestation, and then the prevalence of plant diseases, the rainfall, and the landslide. If we have noticed, the drought, the prevalence of disease, and the pest infestation are the major problem of the farmers in Arakan. Not so much on typhoon and landslide, it's because of its geographical location, it's mountainous. And based on the result of the study, these adaptation strategies which is gathered from the different literature of the climate resiliency in agriculture. The farmers in Arakan perceive the seed distribution program of the government as the most applicable adaptation strategy in their own context. And next to it is the availability or access of agricultural insurance. And the community-based watershed management, they perceive is neither applicable nor inapplicable. It's because of its topography or because of the topography of the land, which is hilly. And this table shows the influence of the following factors that influence the level of the adaptation, applicability of the adaptation strategies. So it could be gleaned on the table that the variables which are farm size, income, if the beneficiary are if the farmers are farmers beneficiary, the education and the crops and the tenure, when taken as one, it's significant. And the predictive power of the model is 46%. And when each of the factor is looked into individually, only income and educational attainment are significant. So therefore, income is a significant predictor of the level of the adaptation strategies. However, the education sees to it that it could be given that there is a negative influence, meaning if the farmers have higher educational attainment, their tendency is they do not perceive those adaptation strategies as not applicable for them. So based on the results, foregoing findings, it could be concluded that the small-scale farmers in Arakan were exposed to climate change-related risks such as drought, pest infestation, prevalence of plant diseases, heavy rainfall, and typhoon. And they perceive that adaptive strategies such as availing seeds from the government and agricultural insurance is the most applicable among the given strategies. Furthermore, income and education of farmers have significant influence on their adaptive strategies in mitigating climate change-related risks. And based on that conclusion, we have this recommendation. Since seed distribution program is very much applicable adaptive strategy to more climate resilient farmers, a well-coordinated seed distribution program considering communities, geographical location, type of soil, climate, and water availability to help revive farming activities could be introduced. Any introduction of drought-resistant crops could be carried out with extensive consultation in the community and follow-up by relevant government agencies. And a policy and a regulation and the access of agricultural insurance could also be linked into, particularly regarding the effect of drought and pest and disease infestation to intensify farmers' resilience to risks of climate change. And work with local communities, because we are asking the applicability of these strategies. Work with local communities to improve understanding of what type of behavior change can lead to more climate resilient agricultural practices to be adapted to strengthen community-based adaptation strategies. So these are the proof of the conduct of the study. Okay, thank you very much.
So good morning everyone, especially to our professors. So for this research, we have with me my partner, Ma'am Estrella Espinas, and yours truly, Evelyn Arakel. So for the title of our research, Competency Dimension Towards Entrepreneurship of Farmers in Barangay Kalupihan, Banay-Banay, Davao Oriental in Region 11. So as to the rationale, as part of the background, persons indulged in agriculture has to compete and cope with the risk they venture in the complex world of farming, while at the same time, the dynamic setting of farming has also evoked challenges to farmers to obtain higher yields and claim sustainable profit to support their families. And it was observed that during harvest seasons in the local agricultural communities, the same variety of agriculture products were sold in the market, causing prices to get very low and even left rotten due to large volume of harvest, which the farmers can no longer sell. And as we all know, entrepreneurial mindset in the agricultural communities has been established in many countries and were found successful. And so the question, why not adopt it here? And so for the statement of the problem, we have the following questions. First, what is the socio-economic characteristics of the farmers? What is the level of cognitive dimension of the farmers toward entrepreneurship? What is the level of behavior dimension of the farmers toward entrepreneurship? What is the level of control and support dimension of the farmers toward entrepreneurship? And what are the predictors of behavior dimensions on farmers toward entrepreneurship? And so here is our conceptual framework. So for the socio-economic characteristics, cognitive dimension, and support and control dimension as the independent variables, and our dependent is the behavioral dimension. For our methodology, methodology, we use a quantitative descriptive research design, and we also use survey questionnaire, which we just adapted from the related studies, and we have the measure of central tendency as to mean and standard deviation, and linear regression. There is also that attempt to use multiple regression. Okay, but there was no significant difference. Okay, so as to the socio-economic characteristics of the farmers in Barangay Kalubihan, so we have there as to the age, the years in farming, the gender, the level of education. As to the cognitive dimension of the farmers toward entrepreneurship farming. So we have there the mean for cognitive 3.19, and so for the description, that falls under neutral. And for the behavior, still neutral. And for the control and support dimension of the farmers toward entrepreneurship, nearing to agree level. And so trying to determine as to what variables or what dimensions can predict behavioral dimension. So cognitive dimension is a significant predictor of behavioral dimension with a significant at 0.004 significance as shown in table 5.2. Sorry, wala na yung label. But the first table there, that's for the model summary. The second there is for the ANOVA, and the third there is the coefficient. And it has 16% predictive power on behavioral dimension as found in the table. As the control and support dimension, is a significant predictor of behavioral indicators with that at 0.002 as shown in the table, and it can predict by 90% probability as found in the R-square value in the table. And as I've mentioned, we also try to use multiple regression, but then none of those dimensions there are significant. So isa-isa na lang through linear regression. And so here's a model, behavioral dimension. There. And for our conclusion, for farmers to cope with the risk they will face in the complex world in which they compete, they need to develop an entrepreneurial spirit. A farmer with an entrepreneurial spirit energetically, enthusiastically, and carefully makes many different decisions about the farm in the context of the value chain that influences the profits in the farm business. And so, as I've mentioned kanina, it is recommended to further conduct analysis of the variables because, as you see, we just get the mean for the cognitive, though there are still indicators per dimension. The possible application of exploratory factor analysis or EFA for each competency dimension, such as in the cognitive, in the support and control dimension, we need to further analyze, which can determine specific indicators that can effectively predict behavior towards entrepreneurship. And so, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. Siguro magalit na kayo sa akin, nalabit ng mag-lunch. Sige, dalian ko na lang po. So, okay, good morning, sir, ma'am, and okay, proceed na po tayo. Our study is determinants of climate resilience, resilient agriculture technology initiative adapting of small-scale rice farmer in Barangay Kalubihan, Bani-Bani, Davao Oriental in Region 11. Ay, 10 pala, sorry. So, my name is Princess Lainez. So, actually, my partner is not around because emergency po. So our background of the study is the Philippines is an archipelagic country where agriculture is the key economic sector considered more vulnerable with this phenomenon. The country contributes approximately 12% of the country gross domestic product, World Bank 2017, and employing around 32% of the economical active population. And with the advent and advanced technology linkage, new information in the agriculture and safe two project that increase of probability, the country is considered as a top agriculture export, such as a banana, coconut, pineapple, and other tropical fruits and peas, and this have potential to increase growth in the agricultural sector. And other is this whole particularly to the small-scale farmers association in Barangay Kalubihan, Bani-Bani, Davao Oriental in Region 10 ba? 11, sorry. Gusto na siguro. Kikita ko na kasi mga lechon. Hi, friends. So, we're increasing number of visit. Nagdadalawa na yung anak ko. Then, statement of the problem, our statement of the problem, this study aims to determine the factors that significantly influence the rice farmer adoption to climate resiliency agriculture initiative, especially in this will address the following queries. What are the factors that significantly affect the rice farmer adopting the climate resiliency agriculture technology initiatives? What the model can significantly determine the rice farmer adoption to climate resiliency agriculture technology initiatives? So our definition of terms, so methodology, sir. So research methodology namin, sir. Yeah, so the use descriptive explaining research designed to quantitative research approach with this objective. The study were addressed. So this sampling and
Okay, so good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, Doc. So sana nagusog tayo sa lunch. Sus, ang problema natin na karon, lamin na po kayo katulog. So bear with me. I will have a very short presentation regarding our topic. So this one is very not similar with the studies that you had discussed kasi this belongs to another class we are here. So we will use another tool in this one. So kanina, ang ginawa natin is we want to create a model to predict our independent variables. In this particular case, we're going to have another point of view. We're going to have the EFA. Okay, so this is our study, an exploratory study in the dimensions of agricultural technology. Last time, kanina, may researcher na sabi niya, he wanted to predict some variables with respect to the adoption. In this particular case, ang goal ng study namin is
before we predict, we want to define first the dimensions of adoption sa agricultural technology. So that this is our study. Okay, so I will be the presenter and si ma'am. Okay, so if we go back to the literature, the original of the technology acceptance model was developed by Venkatish at Davis. So the original framework of technology acceptance model, may variable siya na perceived usefulness at saka perceived ease of use to predict the intention of buying and using that kind of technology. Okay, so when we conducted our literature search, there are a lot of literature that uses technology acceptance model in the industry of information technology, business, health, medicine, electronics, and education. But seldom we see a study that uses technology acceptance model that integrated the environmental dimension of that particular environmental dimension. That is why we decided that that is the research gap that we're trying to address in this particular study. Okay, so the survey was conducted at Barangay Central, Glad, where the most inhabitants of the farmers. So Barangay Central is located in Midsayat, Cotabato. Okay, that's the, basig mo ilon mo nga nag-atik-atik lang that's the picture nga nag-gather ng data, yan. Kaya, it's not a ninja move. So, nag-hire din mga enumerators. Yan. Okay, so but before we proceed to EPA, it is a good practice as scholars, according to Dr. Sable, to examine first the assumptions before we use that particular data. Kasi mahirap naman na you already generated a conclusion and then when you go back to the assumptions, hindi pala mag-fit yung assumptions mo and you cannot use the particular tool. That is why we are very stringent. Before we use this EPA, we have to scrutinize first if we are allowed to use EPA. Okay? So that is why we examine the sample size kasi according to here, the multivariate analysis may require sample size yan, the minimum of 5. And then also examine the overall measures of sampling adequacy, individual at saka yung total, at saka yung Barrett's test of sphericity, so on and so forth. Okay, so this one is the anti-image correlation. So dapat now, according to here, should be greater than 0.5. So yan lang yan. So basically, this is the result of the principles components analysis. And the extraction method is the Varimax. So according to this one, daghan lang siya numbers, but basically the point there is using the Kaiser criterion, Eigen values with greater than 1 should be considered as a component. So in this particular case there, we're going to take a look at the Eigen values. So greater than 1 yung sa total na sites, initial Eigen values. So we have 5 factors considered in this study. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the another criteria is the screen-test criterion, and then the other one is the total percentage variation. So in this particular case, we met that assumption kasi 60% daw, and then we had 76%. Okay? And then, so these are the items. So basically, when we do the thematic analysis of the items, so that one describes the perceived operational sustainability before adopting that kind of technology. Next is the perceived environmental impact. So tinitingnan nila yung environmental impact before they adopt a certain technology. Next is this one, perceived ease of use from the original TAM, technology acceptance model. And then we have the perceived change in yield. And then of course, the perceived change in agricultural practice. It's very noteworthy that we have to yung perceived change of agricultural practice kasi every time we adopt a new technology, change is coming. Di ba? So, yan, same thing with sa university. Okay. So, conclusion, the perceived operational sustainability has the highest impact of adoption, followed by the perceived environmental impact. So, these are the highlights of our study. The study shows that although farmers are more concerned with the operational advantages of modern agricultural technologies, they are also considering the environmental impacts of this advancement on soil, water, and pollution. Okay, kasi it's a good thing. It's a good thing that they consider that when for adapting technology. So the result of the studies, we're planning to use the result of the studies for advanced advanced statistical treatment like structural equations, modeling, so on and so forth. Okay? So if you have some questions, later on. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I should be very fast. Kailangan na ako methodology as well. So I don't have yet the findings and the conclusion. I should be very fast. So my topic, our topic is si Sir Marx ang nasa yung data, so wala siya karon. So I'm sorry I could not present the findings and conclusion. Nonetheless, this is my topic. Our topic is talks about consumer acceptability index of genetically modified food products using exploratory factor analysis. Okay? So, for the introduction, I start with this one. We know that globally, GMO products are already accepted, meaning it's there already. However, we have these mga leftists wherein they say as much as possible we should be because of the risk as well. And so I call this as there's a tug of war. There's a tug of war of acceptance and not accepting the GMO or the GM products, food as food. That's why there is what we call consumer acceptability. Should we really accept, or is it really acceptable? Is the perception of the consumers, they really accept GMO or not? Because of this two tug of war condition. Okay? And so, for the review-related literature, many had actually studied about this, but mostly are more on qualitative methodology. And few had quantified it, but it's more of estimating the behavior of the consumer as well as predicting the factors. And also, some also had a descriptive in a way of, for example, ang items, all the items, for example, kani siya mga items under this acceptability, they get actually the average of it, of which that's a certain gap. Why? Because, for example, factor age and income, which is a greater factor towards consumer buying, income. But then, what we do is that we assume that the same weight and age of income and get the average. Diba? So that's actually a problem gap because it's not having the same weight. So this is the index will try to answer that kind of gap. Also, almost none, meaning none, had actually made a composite measurement of consumer behavior. When you say composite, is the totality din siya. Wala na siya per factor. Meaning, acceptable ba din siya or not? Hindi na siya, this factor, because of this factor, these are the factors the reasons. But, with none, almost none, actually, pag research na wala din nag-make of composite. That's why, this study talks about the index. The composite means say, the totality of acceptability, which is going through the index. So the theoretical framework is the rational theory story, of course. Nasyak ko po karon mo kasi ganagamit na sister of technological acceptance theory, so I will not deal with that anymore. Kahit lecture ni sir. I combine the two, technological acceptance model, because technological acceptance model is on technology, GMOs. Diba? And then is it accepted? Since we're talking about consumer acceptability, one of the very good theory is the rational choice theory of the consumer, wherein these are the factors. We have preference, sensitivity, so on and so forth, and these two factors are under the TAM. Okay, so these are the two theory I will be using for this research. There are two objectives. One is to identify the contribution factor of consumer acceptability. The contribution factor will be kinsay pinakadako gyud nga factor nga makaapekto, kinsay pinaka-least nga factor makaapekto. So if we can determine now the highest factor that will affect the intents, then that will be used as the weight in measuring the index. So sure ang index is having the weights. Na siya weight kinsay di pinakataas na factor. So lastly, the aim is to create a consumer acceptability index of GMO. So it is 300 respondents using Stowell's formula and will be conducted sa Poblacion Trento Agusan del Sur. So this is my framework. I'm almost done. This is my framework. So first is we use the EFA in order to determine the dimensions, unsa man gyud nga mga factors ang makaapekto. So after determining the dimensions, we go to calculate the average score per dimension for each respondent. So imo siyang i-average. After that is again, after you get the dimension, you are now going to run
the principal component analysis. The principal component analysis will be the one to use for your weights. So this is the how to calculate the single index. This is coming from Krishnan. First is compute the factor score, and then the non-standard index, and then you make the standard index. So you can see there in the calculation of the single factor, you can see there that single index, you can see there that there are factor loadings. It means to say these factor loadings, these are the weights for each dimension. So mag-determine kung kato siya nga factor or dimension, taas to siya og weight, will be given a higher factor loading. After that, after generating, you can now get the consumer acceptability, wherein it is average standard index coming from that, katong pinaka-last na view, divided by 5. Why divide by 5? Because ang Likert scale man siya 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because the index usually the highest is 1. Diba? So divided by 5. And last na siya. So this is now how to determine whether acceptable din siya totality ang GMO. If the index will generate 0.84 to 1, then it is acceptable without exemptions. But if it is 0.35 to 0, then it is unacceptable without any exemptions. So that ends my presentation. Thank you.
To give you the synthesis of what we have done this afternoon, so that after the synthesis, we could enjoy this party. Party man daw din siya. After the presentation, we have a Christmas fellowship, di ba? Tapos ng panihon to, pero may kagaging siguro, papa. So I think Dr. Nogas will give you the synthesis of what we have done, whether the objectives have been met, and so on and so forth in this proceedings. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Pwede isang bagsak sa lahat ng presentation. Okay, you did good. You did your best, no? Considering that most of you, except for those who are already nasa mga 7 years, nagbalik lang, or for those na medyo na nasa 2nd year or 3rd year nila, naundang lang, but basically, okay. For the rest of you, halos lahat 1st year, no? Nasalang na dayon mo sa inyong research forum. Kung tanawon magud mo ang inyong paper, kulang ang time. Kung sa normal nga kanagaling mag-review o paper, dili gito siya enough. Even sa presentation ninyo, daghan kay kog kanang mga gipang note down pero di na ko mapasa uban. Unya pagbalik na ko, di na ko kakuan na ngano gani ning nagsulat ko ani. Kalimot na ko ba nga unsa toy akong dapat i-question sa katong statement nga akong i-capture. So those are the things, that's why kanina, although si Ma'am tama man siya nga, sir, lahat, present muna lahat, later na yung forum. Kasi pag ginawa natin yung after the presentation, meron tayong critiquing, hindi siya aabot ng 1 day, siguro baka 2 days pa tayo kasi magdebatihay pa man na. Even from the very beginning that you crafted your kanaganing inyong problem statement, leading to your statement of the problem, objectives, kanang ang very important part na inyong ma-describe sa inyong research paper. Kasi pag dili na klaro ang konteksto, definitely, likog yun kayo na inyong direksyon. Specifically, kung tanawon ako ang every statement of the problem presented, although there are some na medyo hit yun nila ang ilahang mga statement of the problem, na ako'y uban na medyo lang siya, muraba o kanang general kay nga statement, no? Dili pa yun siya kanang lutaw pa, dili pa yun siya klaro kaayo nga mga statement. But basically, kung tanawon nato in general sa inyong presentation, ni-come up mo og mga methods, no, mga tools nga gigamit, gi-apply yun ninyo tanan from theories, sa inyong mga review of related literature, sa inyong mga theoretical framework, conceptual framework, and even sa inyong mga discussion sa inyong results, kana lang siguro na ako'y gamay lang kayo nga comment. Kasi ang inyong statement of the problem, results and discussion, even sa inyong recommendations, dili lang yun kayo siya tuhog no, gikan sa sinugdanan hantod sa inyong recommendation na part. Kasi from your, kung dili magod na ayon ninyo pagka-prepare ang inyong statement of the problem, ang inyong discussion sa results gani, dili po na siya hanay. So, kasi kung unsa mo imuhang ipangutang dito sa statement number 1, number 2, number 3, supposed to be, ang discussion po na ninyo sa inyong results, ingato po siya, number 1, number 2, number 3. And for the recommendations, of course, there are those na kuan kayo, wapo pagkahanay ang recommendations, but for those na medyo nakulangan na ko kay ang iyang kong results, sa results and discussion, wala kayo niya na-discuss itong pinaka-lowest na rating sa mga mean or sa kuan nga, which is supposed to be dito ka muhatag og di input sa imong recommendations aside sa katong mga highly significant nimo or very good nga mga kuano result ninyo. And of course, another one is yung mga researcher-made questionnaire. Murag nag-assume na lang nga ni-undergo na siya validation. Even if wala gid siya na-mention thoroughly sa inyong presentation na ni-undergo siya o validation. Kasi researcher-made questionnaire siya. And if in case that questionnaire is adopted, you have to consider kanaganing i-contextualize gihapon siya kahit nag-i-adapt ninyo siya nga questionnaire. Kasi dili man siya pwede na standardized naman itong questionnaire na ginamit ko. Bakit i-question pa yan? Hinumdumi ninyo nga nag-prepare na mostly, di ba, i-copy lang nato sa mga Western na mga models and even sa mga Western na mga concept. Dili siya naka-contextualize sa ato ang Philippine setting. So, kinanglan ninyo siya i-validate again, i-run na po ang iyahang validation test, reliability test. And then validate, pwede ninyo mag face-to-face validation na po mo sa mga experts na pwede mo validate sa statements, no? Basic na mga statements. And sa recommendations, there are those recommendations na gihimo na sa government. Ano bang, naman na siya ng recommendation. Oo. Pero mura siya og kanan sa inyong paper, mo bitang bantayan ninyong pag-research. Kasi baka duplication na ang inyong gihimo nga research. Wala gid siya ni-address sa gap. Kay isa po na sa question ako supposed to be nga kung one-on-one yun ni siya nga paper presentation, di among kong tanawon pag-ayo kung asa kadapit nga gap ning sulod sa kaninga study. Kasi considering there are a lot of studies already conducted in cacao, conducted in climate change, mga kwan, daghan na kayong mga studies ana karon asa man kaning sulod sa imuhang review of related literature nga nakita nimo nga naa ang gap. Ang gap naman pod ang pangitaon ana. Mo nang pagtan-aw nako sa recommendations, ay may mga government initiatives naman diyan. Pero baka doon lang sa implementation nagka-problema. May mga policies na din present for that purpose. So those are the things nga tan-awon po nato as a researcher. Dili lang ay kani ang gwapo nga recommendation. Oo. Mo bitaw lang kinahanglan nato mag-review sa atong mga related studies. Kasi uban na nga mga recommendations, gi-recommend na po siya. And those other recommendations, kuha na po na siya, gihimo na po sa gobyerno. Pero still, ang problema na gihapon. So what's the problem? Naman dahil na siya nga recommendation, existing na nga recommendation, nganong problema man gihapon siya. So wala siya ni-address, kumbaga ang imuhang research na gihimo, wala din siya totally ni-address or ni-minimize or ni-hatag og something new sa process nga mo-address sa problem. Kaya dili man yun siya totally makaingon ka nga at i-address yun mo ang problem. no? So, posible nga that new product sa imong mind or sa imong research maghatag to new way para ma-address ang problem, no? So, bitaw na pag PhD, ano gyud siya? It should not be just a research nga, research lang. Kailangan siya sa PhD, kanang yung research nga, kung sa imong contribution sa body of knowledge. How kay si Sir, ano ba? Unya, nagdumagan. Kaya supposed to be, muhatag manggutag new, mo generate tag new idea, dili lang ta consumer sa idea. At the same time, mo produce kita og idea. Mo man na siya ang kanang konsepto nga kanang ganing nganong ang graduate students kinahanglan mo produce gyud og output nga mo contribute gyud siya, dili lang nga ingon sa school, sa community, even to a wider scale pwede mo contribute, given the fact na di na mo kinahanglan statistician, sa totoo lang kay magaling na gyud mo. First year pa mo ha, first pa lang ninyo nga salang. Mind you, this is just the first step. Kasi as you journey sa inyong, kung mag-higher level na mo, mag-second year, third year, sisiyo na lang kaayo ni sa inyong research forum. In fact, kung karon gakurog-kurog inyong tuhod dinhi sa tunga, mabitaw ng dili kay mo banat pod kay kanang sugod pamanggod na lain pod kayo, frustrating pod kay sa part nga kana ganing gasugod pag ayo na og kanang kulata. Di ba ka malain ana? So mas maayo pod siguro sa sugod nga more on sa mga encouragement, no? Kasi by doing this sa inyo nga level, kuan na gid kay siya for me kung i-compare na ko siya sa akong previous nga klase o sa amuang days. Layo ra gyud kaayo gyud siya gyud kasi kami nasalang mi og research na naman sa later part. Wala siya sa first part. Mao nang sa later part gaaginod mi sa mo ang thesis writing or dissertation writing. Nga naman first year pa lang dili pa man kaayo yung anak ka grabe ang amo ang engagement sa research. More on readings lang, mura ba og nag-review of related literature lang. Pero sa inyo basically gidaanan ninyo from chapter 1 down to the processing of documents, down to analysis, hantod nga mo come up with mo og inyong mga conclusions and recommendations.
Sige. Component number 5.
Congratulations for the job well done with your trying hard presentation. And I've noticed actually when you arrive here, just a few minutes after your arrival, you were busy actually preparing your slides. Preparing your slides, but at any rate, you were able to complete the task for this course in computer modeling and also with empirical analysis 1 on basic stat, and also with philosophy of development. So now what's next? So the next steps after this, we have here actually, this is just actually maybe an initial round of maybe a pre-run of the CRE summit that will be held, that will be conducted next year. So the one that you have prepared maybe just the starting point for you to go further in your research, in your inquiry. So basically, what we intend to produce at the end of this CRE AMIA project would be a compilation of studies related to climate resilient agriculture and a compilation of policy studies. We hope that we can produce a book or references or studies on climate resilient agriculture, be it research or policy studies, that could be a useful reference or document that will be utilized in the drafting of the CRE manual. And the draft of the CRE manual has to be scientifically based. It has to be science-based. Right now, at the national level, we don't have yet the manual on climate resilient agriculture. With these studies that you have, we hope that it will now be used as a reference material for the university to propose the drafting of the CRA manual. So all those studies that you have completed will serve as references in the drafting of the CRA manual. That will form part of the document that will be reviewed as a reference in the design and structuring of the CRA manual. So with that, this is just the initial step. We will have more of this. We will have another activity like this next semester. But the trend, actually, it was not actually designed in this way. When we started this, actually, we don't have actually a well-crafted plan yet. It was just a product actually of the an idea that we found to come up with a consolidation of the requirement of those professors who work with me. Next semester, I'm thinking actually that we have to anchor CRA, Climate Resilient Agriculture, within the purview of data innovation or predictive analytics. So meaning, what we intend here, maybe the opening of the next semester would be there's a clear-cut guidelines for the research summit or the summit that will be conducted next year. But basically, our research, yung research na ginawa ngayon, what you have done right now, i-upscale natin, pakitin kunti natin. And those policy studies also, pakitin natin yung mga research na yan. But by next year, I am actually trying to inject the idea of data innovation. I mean, the application of data mining and predictive analytics, its application to climate resilient agriculture. That would be the trajectory of our research summit or conference next year. So what you have done right now, simply that will be very useful in conducting research in line with our plan next year. So this will serve only as our reference for a more in-depth study with the application of data mining and predictive analytics. So once again, congratulations. By the way, you submit as I have reminded you this morning, you submit your hard copy as reference for the professors for the referee of grade, and you have also to submit your electronic copy for documentation of the graduate school. So you need to submit your fully packaged electronic copy and at the same time your hard copy for documentation of the graduate programs, the doctorate program, because we're working actually by next year, the PhD program here will also be working on its application for the AACO accreditation as a requirement for the preliminary survey. So the documents that you have submitted will be very useful also for our preparation of the AACO application for preliminary survey for the PhD program. And with that, you are our active partner in this endeavor. Daghang salamat.